Salutations, Illumineers, and welcome back to the Lorcana Rundown. I'm Silver, and the blessed event is finally upon us, friends. We are on the eve of Rise of the Floodborn release. I am recording this on a Tuesday, and release is Friday. We finally have the complete visual spoiler for Rise of the Floodborn available on the Lorcana app. It's also available on Dreamborn.inc and Lorcania for all of your deck building needs. So now it's time to put in the hard work. Figure out what it is you're looking to pull from Rise of the Floodborn, what singles you're going to target if you prefer to buy singles rather than pull all your product. And you've got to make that big decision. Do I continue playing the same deck and theme that I was playing in set 1, or do I try something new, something a little spicy, out of my range of confidence? For my part, I'm still leaning towards Emerald Amethyst, but there are going to be some major changes for Rise of the Floodborn. So to this point, we've been playing basically Emerald Amethyst good stuff. If it was a good card and it was purple or it was green, it went in the deck. That's going to change up if for no other reason than every other color combination is just getting that much better. They're going to have a lot more answers to our evasives. They're going to have other ways to remove cards like Cusco. And they're just going to have ways to outpace what lore gain we had. So we're going to have to think outside the box a little bit if we want to stick with Emerald Amethyst as our colors. The good news is that there are a couple different archetypes we could consider if we want to stick with Emerald Amethyst. So they were pretty obvious going through spoiler season, and I know I mentioned a couple of these already, but you've got your discard theme, which focuses on hand hate or removing cards from your opponent's hand. This sort of a theme would play spells or abilities like Sudden Chill. It would play characters like Lucifer. But the focus is on keeping your opponent's hand empty and giving them fewer options to work with. So if I were going to go with a discard theme, I think some of the cards on my week 1 wish list would be Lucifer, as I mentioned, Cunning Cat. He is an uninkable 5-drop with a 2/2 body. His ability Mouse Catcher is when you play this character, each opponent chooses and discards either 2 cards or 1 action card. It's not typical that your opponent's going to just have an action card in hand to pitch. So there's a good chance anytime you play this guy, you're going to be hitting a 2-card discard. So that's really helpful. And even against decks that do run a lot of actions, like song-heavy decks in Amber and Steel, you're going to be taking away an action that they probably need. And right now, the only real action recursion that you have, so cards that return actions to your hand or your deck from the discard, are in green. So they're going to have a hard time in those sorts of setups recovering after you hit their hand. Some other cards you're going to want to look out for are cards that give you a payoff when you discard a card, or when your opponent discards a card. And the biggest one for that is Prince John, Greediest of All. Uninkable 3-drop with a 1/2 body, also in Emerald. He's got Ward, which makes him really nice for just staying out on the field and doing his effect. His ability is I Sentence You. Whenever your opponent discards 1 or more cards, you may draw a card for each card discarded. So if you hit them with a Lucifer while Prince John is on the field, they're discarding the 2 cards. You're drawing 2 cards, which is great value off of an uninkable 5-drop. Other important cards to note, and these are all in green, so you could actually run these with other subcolors if you wanted than Amethyst. I've seen a lot of lists running Amber Emerald discard because of the song searching abilities in Amber, and also the character recursion abilities in Amber. But in green, we've got the Queen Disguised Peddler, and there has been a lot of chatter about this card. She is a super rare, uninkable 3-drop in Emerald. She has a 2/3 body, and her ability is a perfect disguise. You exert her, then choose and discard a character card. You gain lore equal to the discarded character's lore value. So this goes strictly off of the lore value printed on the card, which means that if in your hand the card is a 3 lore card, that's how much lore you get for getting rid of it. If it's a 1 lore card, that's how much lore you get for getting rid of it. It's not modified by anything like, say, if you were to do Merlin Shapeshifter, the amount of things that have been returned to your hand, or if you use Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan, it's not going to count how many cards are in your opponent's hand. So this is where the exciting stuff gets kind of brought in for this sort of a discard theme, is that you've got Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan, also in Emerald. He's a rare. He's a 4-drop uninkable, but he quests for 4 lore. He's got a downside that he gets -1 lore for each card in your opponent's hands, but that doesn't matter if you're getting rid of him. If you're discarding him to the queen, you get that 4 lore regardless. And if you're in a discard theme and you end up having to play him, odds are your opponent's not going to have enough cards in their hand to really make it a downside. You're going to be getting the most value you can out of him. So he's another good card to look out for in the sort of discard theme. You're also going to want to look out for, obviously, Hypnotize. It's the ability that we saw spoiled with Ka, the serpent on it. It forces your opponent to discard. And one that I don't think a lot of people have really made much note of, but this goes back to the Queen synergies. Ray, Easygoing Firefly, he's a common. He's an inkable 5-drop. Not much to write home about. He's an evasive 3/3, but he quests for 3 lore. So if you've got a queen on the field, you get 3 lore for him. If you don't have a queen, he's ink, or he's an evasive body that quests for 3. So versatile, a good common to have. Definitely step up from something like Green Tank from last set. So definitely an option for people wanting to stick with green. And like I said, if you want to try outside of your comfort zone, go away from Amethyst. That discard theme pairs really well with Amber because of the character recursion. If they get rid of your queen, you can bring it back. When you end up having to discard your big lore gainers, you can bring them back and discard them all over again. So always good to keep an eye out for that. The second possible theme that we've got for Emerald Amethyst is more to the Amethyst side of the spectrum. This is an Aristocrats theme. It's a term that comes from Magic the Gathering and a card type called Aristocrat that usually benefits from a character dying. So the whole idea of an Aristocrat theme is getting a payoff whenever something leaves play or leaves the battlefield. You're looking at things that like Madame Mim Fox, which give you a way to get something off the battlefield. Because when you play her, you have to return something to your hand. She's also got a good effect on her, that rush, and she's a 4/3, so you don't have to lose out on much by trading out that character. There are a lot of good cards in Amethyst in Rise of the Floodborn that have payoffs when they leave play. You've got basically all of the Merlins from the Wizard's Duel. Goat, which gains you a lore when it leaves play and enters play. Yeah, Merlin's Squirrel. When you play him and when he leaves play, look at the top card of your deck and put it either on the top or bottom. So that's the sort of thing you're wanting to look out for if you're going to do this Aristocrat style deck. You also have to look in for things that just have good payoffs when they leave the battlefield, and you want to be careful because you want to make sure it's not something that specifically says it's banished in a challenge. And a lot of the cards in the first chapter specify banished in a challenge. One card, and this is from Rise of the Floodborn that doesn't specify that, that's actually really, really solid, is Kuzco, Wanted Llama. He is an inkable 2-drop with a 1/2 body, quests for 1 lore, but the real payoff here is his ability, Okay, Where Am I? So when he's banished, you may draw a card. If you have a good way to get him off the field, say banishing him in combat or giving him rush, like from something like Gruesome and Grim, and then he gets banished. Madame Mim, Rival of Merlin, she lets you play a character 4 or less for free, but it gets banished at the end of turn. When he is banished, you get a card. So it doesn't matter if it's in a challenge or not. So other cards really you're going to want to look out for in the Aristocrats theme. I already mentioned the Wizard's Dual Cost cards. You're going to want Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. That is a song. It lets you return target character of yours to your hand and play another character of its cost or less for free. You can use that to get your leave play effects and enter play effects recurred. You also want to look for Gruesome and Grim. That's got that effect where you may play a character of cost, I believe it's 4 or less for free. It gains rush, and you banish it at the end of turn. And it is a song, so cost 3 or more can sing it. So those are all on my wish list, and I kind of threw together just sort of last minute before I came in to record a kind of target week 1, phase 1 of League deck that I want to try out. I'm calling it an EP or ETB theme. It's enter the battlefield, enter play. My real focus is on getting a payoff whenever I play a character, whether it's coming out for free or I'm actually paying its ink cost. So I run 4 Pascals from set 1, 4 Kuzco, Wanted Llama, 4 Magic Brooms, 4 Madame Mim Fox, 4 Elsa Gloves Off, 4 Jafar, Wicked Sorcerer, 4 Merlin, Goat, 4 Radigan, Criminal Mastermind, 4 Madame Mim, Merlin's Rival, and then I run 2 John Silvers from set 1, 2 Lady Tremaine, Wicked Stepmother, also from set 1, 2 of the set 1 Ursulas, 2 Elsa Spirit of Winters, and then 4 of the Dr. Facilier Fortune Tellers that were spoiled for Rise of the Floodborn. For actions, I run 4 Improvise, 4 Gruesome and Grim, and 4 Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Altogether, I think it comes out to something like 14 uninkables, and if you look at it, it really hits hard on that 4 ink spot, and that's because of Madame Mim, Merlin's Rival. So Madame Mim is an inkable 5-drop. She's a 2/5 body who quests for 2 lore in Amethyst. She's rare. She has Shift 3. Her ability, though, Gruesome and Grim, you exert her to play a character with cost 4 or less for free. They gain rush, and at the end of the turn, you banish them. So the goal is, early on, I want to get as much value as I can by playing these 4-drop characters for free and getting their enter the battlefield and their leave the battlefield abilities. So, for instance, with Kuzco, if he is not being played on turn 2 and just accompanying Pascal to get the evasive, he's going to get me a card when I have to pop him out for Madame Mim. Elsa Gloves Off is in there because she has a high challenge value. She has Challenger 3, so if I rush her in, she's already a 3/4. With that Challenger, she's a 6/4. That's going to take out a lot of things on turn 5. Well, turn 6 it would be if I'm not shifting out the Mim. So that's definitely going to be a threat. She's a common, too, which is great. A lot of people, even I didn't think when I first looked at Elsa Gloves Off, this is a good card. But if you put her in a deck where she can be cheated out with something like Gruesome and Grim or Madame Mim, Rival of Merlin, she's going to be solid removal. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. And she's inkable, so if she is in your hand, she's not a brick. She can still be a resource. It's not like Rafiki or Zeus, where you were sitting on uninkable cards until you had enough ink or the right opportunity. Another one that I tossed in here, kind of for the same reason, is Jafar, Wicked Sorcerer. He's from set 1, and he is the Jafar that has Challenger 3. So he's another 4-drop and inkable. He's a 2/5, but because he has Challenger 3, he comes out swinging for 5 with a butt that's 5. So there's a good chance, if you don't have to banish him, he'll still be around. That said, if you're cheating him out with Mim or Gruesome and Grim, you do have to banish him at the end of the turn. Still, good value. He's going to be a 5 power removal. So another inkable body to have in there. And we've got the magic brooms for our recursion. We want those to bring back our characters like Madame Mim that we're relying on back into the deck so that we can get them again. We've got a good amount of card draw between the Merlin, between your Merlin and your improvise. You've got a good amount of card draw. And then at the top end of your deck, where you're really going to start getting your lore generation, are those big expensive cards, the John Silver, the Lady Tremaine, the Ursula, and so on. Those quest for 2/3 lore, they're expensive, but with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, you can play it. The turn you exert it to quest, you pop it to your hand, you bring another one out. And they all have, well, with the exception of Dr. Facilier, they have enters play effects that give you a payoff. Ursula, she removes a lore from your opponent and gives you a card. John Silver, target character gains Reckless. And Elsa, Spirit of Winter, she's going to freeze 2 of your opponent's characters. So she's going to have great payoff when you bounce her with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, because you'll be able to effectively keep 2 of their characters on lockdown. Play her, freeze. Next turn, exert her for 3 lore, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, play her again. And you've got Lady Tremaine in there from set 1, who is going to help you bring back those actions to keep doing it. And that's really what I think is going to be the fun part of this deck. It's more of a mid-range tempo than an aggro tempo like Emerald Amethyst was in set 1. But I am really, really curious to see if I can make this all work out for League. So I will have the deck list in the comments. It may not be exactly as I read because I am still tuning it. So check the list out, drop me a comment, and let me know what you think. So that is it from my week 1 wish list for Emerald Amethyst. Thank you for joining me on the Lorcana Rundown. I'm Silver, and if you like what you saw, give us a like, subscribe, share us around, and check out some of the other Game Talk Network shows. We've got Board Games Rundown, RPG Rundown, and Miniatures Rundown, so a little bit of something for everybody. Thanks, and good luck with your pulls in Rise of the Floodborn.